And Talk with Attitude.
Welcome back to the show. Well, there's been a lot of press lately about the incredible proliferation of marijuana grow operations in rental houses throughout the Lower Mainland. And there's many, many very negative aspects to this. We're not engaged in the debate right now on decriminalization, legalization, and all that sort of stuff. That's not what's interesting me this morning. I am just fascinated at how this underground economy, this illicit economy, with all of the ills that it brings with it, it seems to be the most vibrant industry we have in the Lower Mainland at the moment. Do you have a grow-op in your neighborhood? James, hi.
Good morning, Pia.
Morning.
I just think there's been a lot of bad hype going on. Like, you watch the news, it's ridiculous, like how they're going on about every neighborhood has a grow-op, and then you got ladies phoning in saying their children are going in and buying marijuana from grow operations. I cultivate marijuana, and if a kid came to my door, what's he going to come and buy, 20 pounds? I don't even know the kid. I'm not going to sell him anything. It's ridiculous.
But James, isn't that a bit disingenuous of you? You'll sell 20 pounds to somebody else who'll sell to that kid.
Oh, well, you know.
Oh, well, you know.
They're going to get it anyways. And the other thing is, it's better marijuana than all these other people having methamphetamine labs. And the scarier thing is you have people like a couple calls back. You have Rocky, who's out carrying firearms around his house suspecting grow-ops. Like, what is this? That's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, but isn't your point of view rather self-serving? Here, tell me, how much money do you make doing this?
Well,
I don't mind. I mean, you're anonymous.
As much money as like you. Like, you know, there's not that much money in growing
well, let's talk about it. I suspect you make a hell of a lot more than I do, and it's wonderfully tax-free. Like, how many plants might you have going at any given moment?
Well, there's no money in it until you got well over 100 plants anyways. You know, if you grow 75 plants, and by the time all your expenses are covered, you've broken even. You know, it's not, the money in it isn't the way the police say. The way they mark up their bust, they say, oh, we busted 100 plants, and, you know, there's roughly a pound on each plant, which is ludicrous. You know, you're lucky to pull 3 ounces off a plant, and then they'll say a grow-op of 300 plants.
Well, how big are your plants? 3 ounces off a plant? Maybe you're just not a very good horticulturalist.
Well, you know, you've got to kick them over. You don't want to spend 6 months on a crop.
Don't you have them going cyclically? Like, you've got some ready for harvesting and some starting out as seedlings, and you only get 3 ounces? So, what is...
Per plant. At the end of the crop, you do okay. It's not like we're cultivating 3 ounces. That would be absurd.
No, so I asked you, like, how many plants do you cultivate per month? I mean, how many plants do you harvest per month?
It's a 2-month cycle, and you pull off about, 150 plants every cycle.
And when you sell those 150 plants, the product of same, how much money do you make? I'm sorry to ask you. People are remarkably recalcitrant in talking about money. You don't mind justifying your criminal activity, but you don't want to say how much money you're making. I'm really fascinated. Well, this has got to be a good business, or why would you do it?
When you sell it off, you get about 150 an ounce, but you break it down into pounds, and there's a bit of money in it, but the hype has just become ridiculous.
Wait a minute, a bit of money?
Well, there's expenses. You know, you got to...
There's always expenses. Hey, come on, be straight with me. How much money are you making every 2 months on your harvested crop?
Oh, you could pull in an easy 10 grand.
So that's not a bad living.
Oh, yeah, but that's not a great living.
Well, what would you be doing otherwise, James?
Well, considering my other options, I could go work in the tourism industry, as you said, for minimum
wage.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, yeah, it's a bit better than that. But the other thing is...
And it's also tax-free, so you're actually making $20,000, not 10.
Well, you could put it that way, but...
You certainly could.
You do live in a country where everything you buy is 14% tax, so there's still tax going back into the system.
But, you have to pay that 14%, and I have to pay that 14%, but the $10,000 you're making every 2 months is actually $20,000, so you're dead wrong. You're making a hell of a lot more money than I am, baby.
well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I am too. Maybe I'm in the wrong business, but then I'm like my mother, I don't have a green thumb. And what is this? I mean, I never saw so many cowboys who all of a sudden discovered that they're wonderful little farmers. Isn't it fascinating?
Well, no, it's what it comes like. There's lots of people doing it, and there'll be a lot more getting into into it because it is fairly good money. It's not easy money as you put out. You don't just,
But you have to work at it. These indoor grow operations take a lot of tending, don't they?
Right. They take a lot of work, but it's not like, the news puts it on, there's a bunch of guys sitting in the house with guns selling heroin to kids. That's what you think when you watch, like, we busted houses in West Vancouver yesterday, they say.
Are you doing this in a rental house?
Of course.
So does your landlord know?
Well, I hope not. But, there's no damage to the house. Most people, like, there are the odd people that get completely greedy and go farther than the house should go and rip the house apart. See, that's not the way it should be done. You do it within your means. You don't trash someone's house. You got to respect for the house.
But, the thing that bothers me, James, and I appreciate your candor, but I do think you're fooling yourself when you say, well, I don't sell to kids, and then you basically don't care that all the people you're supplying will sell to kids. I think basically you probably think there's nothing wrong with kids smoking pot.
Well, within a certain, I don't think, like, elementary school kids should smoke pot, but, we all went to high school, and half the kids in our high school all smoke pot, and you know what? A lot of them grew up to be pretty productive citizens. It's not like, and the old things of, marijuana will lead to heroin. I've been smoking marijuana for 20 years. I've never done heroin once in my life.
Mm-hmm. But now you have an illegal career. Doesn't that worry you? What happens to you if you get busted? What would actually happen? What would the law do to you?
Well, I'd lose my crop. I'd get all my equipment taken away. I'd end up in court, and I'd probably get probation for a year and probably $5,000 fine.
So all it would do would be to cost you money, but meanwhile you've been making money from it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so there's no wonder there's so many grow-ups all over the place.
Exactly.
It's one of the few ways you can make a decent living as an average person in the Lower Mainland. There's precious few jobs otherwise. That's why I asked you, what would you be doing otherwise, where you might be, serving meals at some cheesy restaurant?
Of course, yeah, and you know it, and I know it. And what are you going to do when all the industry is being shut down and logging and fisheries and everything? What are you really going to do? Who wants to go work at A&W? I don't really feel like saying, do you want fries with that? And then look at my menial paycheck where I can make that kind of money in a day.
Hey, are you smoking more or less pot now that you're growing it?
To be honest with you, I have not smoked pot in 6 months now that I'm growing it.
Wow, that's interesting. Why did you stop using the product now that you're creating it?
Just because I just, decided I've been smoking for a long time, I'm going to give it a break. Same reason some people quit smoking cigarettes. They're not illegal.
And how many other people, who else lives in the house with you?
Just myself.
Just all by yourself? Just a bachelor boy growing his little buddies in the basement. Thanks for your candor, James. So I'm throwing out the question. We'll get to those of you waiting on the line in just a moment after the news. I'm asking you, do you have a grow up in your neighborhood? And how do you feel about it?